Okay, we're back on the air. And what I had just asked you when the phone went off was that you have been doing this as long as I've known you, and I'm sure longer than that. So, and when I say this, why don't you clarify this so that people don't assume that they know what I'm talking about?
Well, I talk about it in terms of transforming the legal profession, and I often look at it in the form of an inquiry. What if lawyers were peacemakers, problem solvers, and healers of conflicts? And so I've been looking at that in my own practice for a long time, and then learning about that and sharing that with other people. And so I talk a lot about the different ways that people are performing their duties in those roles, and how to be a whole person and a lawyer at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And as a part of that, I know that you have, within the last year, gone out and interviewed other people. You have other people who are, tell me, what was the criteria for putting them in your interview tour?
Well, I don't know that I had a criteria at the beginning. There used to be this myth that there were about 100 pioneers in the movement, and so I set out that I was going to interview 100 people, and I've interviewed more than 100 people, and I've barely touched the surface.
How many? Excuse me, just let me interrupt you a second. How many of those videos are up on cuttingedgelaw.com?
All of them.
All of them?
There are something in the neighborhood of 350 clips.
Oh, I did not realize that.
And so they're divided into clips, and so they're...
because YouTube can't take more than,
right.
Yeah.
They're hosted on YouTube. But it's also, most people can't take more than about 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kept hearing stories from people, and I was inspired by their stories. But I decided I wanted to share them with other people because, I mean, I could sit and have the most amazing experience and then tell it to other people, but to actually put it on the web means that more people can find it.
Right.
So I created Cutting Edge Law as a way...
CuttingEdgeLaw.com for you listeners.
Yeah, CuttingEdgeLaw.com as a way for people to learn about these people that are trailblazers and pioneers. And as I said, I've just barely skimmed the surface.
Well, there certainly is a very poignant series of videos that I'm sure a lot of people were glad had been taken. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Bruce.
Bruce Winnick.
Yes. That was very moving. Tell people about that.
Bruce Winnick was one of the people that we interviewed, and in fact, one of the other people we interviewed is Susan Dykoff, and she has said that one of the values of all of our interviews is that we're documenting some of the people who have really been out there working hard for a long time and have gotten older, and she's particularly looked at Bruce's because we knew for a few weeks that Bruce wasn't doing well. But Bruce Winnick actually was amazing. He started therapeutic jurisprudence.
Right.
But beyond that, he actually is probably also responsible for the drug court movement, which people could say is part of therapeutic jurisprudence. But the drug court movement, the problem-solving court movement, started in South Florida, where he was a teacher. And the judges there told me that he used to call them and ask them how they were doing and how he could support them. And he really became their partner as an academic, of doing the research that needed to be done to make the case about why what they were doing made sense. So he collected data, he looked at the mental health literature, the substance abuse literature, and wrote papers, and he used them as models, and he spoke about them, and he helped them document what they needed to document for grant applications, and even more than that, he actually just listened to them.
And all that with some significant physical challenges, right?
Bruce lost his sight quite a number of years ago, and then most recently, someone told me, I don't know for sure who it was, but he worked up until just before he died, and he's been in a wheelchair apparently for several months from his last illness.
Now the video, I think there are 6 parts to that interview or something like that.
I think 7.
7. And one of them, I think it was the sixth one, he talks about his attitude towards life, and it's everybody should watch that. It's just so inspiring and educational.
I don't know if this is the part you're talking about, but I remember when he talked about his blindness, and he said basically everybody has some kind of handicap. Some of them are more visible than others.
Yeah, he seemed wonderful.
He was just one of the nicest human beings you
Yeah.
could ever meet, and one of the most prolific scholars, and just really good people.
And you've got Susan Dakoff on there.
Susan, Larry Krieger.
Right. Susan wrote, what's the name of her book?
Susan, Lawyer Know Thyself.
Lawyer Know Thyself. Know Thyself. Yeah, that's an interesting book.
She's sort of the mother of the comprehensive law movement.
Mm-hmm. And Scott Rogers, I bet you that was fun.
Scott Rogers was a lot of fun, and his juricide approach.
Uh-huh. And so you went all around the country. Did you ever, has there ever been somebody outside of the United States that you've interviewed?
We have not been outside the U.S. yet.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a lot of conversations going on with some folks in the U.K. and in Australia, but we haven't been there yet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you want to get over to the U.K. Those guys have such a good sense of humor. I'm going to turn this off and then start it again.